Hello, sixth graders. Welcome to my first lesson on virtual learning. So hopefully you're happy to hear my voice, and I'll go through the lesson today. Make sure you remember that you can pause and restart it whenever you need to. Hopefully you've watched the opener video, so I won't include that opener video in this one, but today what we're doing is we are graphing equations in slope-intercept form, and remember you can always ask for help whenever you need to. So the opener today, it says key ideas. The x-intercept of the line is the x-coordinate of the point where the line crosses the x-axis, and it occurs when y equals 0. So this point right there would be your x-intercept. The y-intercept of a line is the y-coordinate of the point where the line crosses the y-axis, and it occurs when x equals 0. So right there is going to be my y-intercept. Now, slope-intercept form, and this is the big form that we are going to be using all the rest of this chapter, is y equals mx plus b. M stands for slope, which we worked on finding last week, and b stands for your y-intercept. So from this form, you're going to be able to first find where the line crosses the y-axis, and then you're going to be able to graph the next point because you have the slope. That means you could be going up so many, to the right so many. It could mean you're going down and then to the right. Depends on what kind of line that you have, whether it's positive, negative, or even 0 or undefined. So slope-intercept form is what we're working on today. So first example here, it says find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph of each linear equation. Well, looking at this equation, it's already in slope-intercept form. So this number here would be my y-intercept. So it would cross here at -5. And my slope here would be 3/4. So now if I want to graph it, I'm going to have it cross here at -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it has a slope of 3/4. That means I go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I could do this again to make my line a little bit straighter, but really all I need is 2 points to draw a line, so I can just draw a line through those 2 points, and that would be my graph of this equation that's in slope-intercept form. Now, b is not quite in slope-intercept form. It's close, but it's not quite. In order to get it into slope-intercept form, I would just have to subtract that 1/2 over to the other side. So then that would cancel, so I'd have y equals -6x minus 1/2. So that then means my slope is this number in front of my x, -6, and then my y-intercept would be -1/2. Now graphing this one is a little bit tricky, especially with this graph. But all it would mean is that you would be crossing here at -1/2, which is about right there. And then your slope would be -6, which means you would go down 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then over 1. So it would be approximately right there. And then you would draw a line through that as best that you can. Okay, next up is a couple on your own questions. All you have to do is find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph of the linear equation. So just find the slope and the y-intercept for both of those. Pause the video and do it on your own, please. All right, to check your answers for this one, you should have gotten a slope of 3, and then the y-intercept is -7. For question number 2, you had to add 1 to the other side, so then you get the equation y equals -2/3 x plus 1, and that means my slope is -2/3, and that means my slope is 1. All right, example 2a. It says graph -2/3 x minus 2, and then identify the x-intercept. So first I'm going to go for the graphing. So I know this is my y-intercept right here, -2. So I make a dot at -2. Now my slope is -2/3. You notice that the negative is kind of in the middle. You can make the negative go with either the top number or the bottom number. I typically just put it with the top number and know that that means I need to go down 2 and then over 3. Then I could do it again just to make my line a little bit straighter. And then I just draw a line through those points. So that would be the graph of that equation in slope-intercept form. Now, to identify the x-intercept, I can see where this line crosses the x-axis, and I see that it crosses here. It's kind of not perfectly drawn line. It should actually cross a -3. But if you're not able to draw your lines clearly, then another method that you can use is to find the x-intercept, just put 0 in for y. So that means I have 0 equals -2/3 x minus 2. Well, then I added 2 to both sides. And then this is where it gets tricky. You could divide by -2/3, or that's the same as multiplying times 3 over -2 on both sides. 2 times -3, or excuse me, 2 times 3 over -2 gives me -3. But again, the straighter you draw this line, you'll be able to see where it crosses the x-axis, so it won't be quite as difficult to find the x-intercept. Another example like that one says to graph y equals -3x plus 3. Well, plus 3 is my y-intercept, so I go up 3, and there would be my y-intercept. My slope is -3, which would be -3 over 1, which means I go down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1 again, and then I can draw as straight a line as I can through those points. Now, when I do that, it's actually pretty easy for me to pick out the x-intercept on this one, because when I was doing my next point, it crossed the x-axis, so that meant my x-intercept is 1. But again, if you didn't know that, you couldn't find your line straight enough to make sure where the x-intercept is, you can always double check it by putting 0 in for y. So 0 equals -3x plus 3. I minus 3 on both sides, and then this one's a little bit easier. I just divide by -3 on both sides, which gives me my x-intercept is 1. So again, finding the x-intercept isn't the most important part, but knowing how to graph this equation using the slope and the y-intercept, that's a little bit more important. Okay, pause the video and do these two on your own, please. All right, to check these two, so first thing I did was I graphed those linear equations, and then I found the x-intercept. So this one has a slope of 1, a y-intercept of -4. So that means I went down here to -4, made my first dot, and then my slope is 1, which means 1 over 1. So I just go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. I have lots of points that fall in the straight line, so then I just drew a straight line through them. And then since my line was so perfectly drawn, I can tell that my x-intercept is 4. I could have gotten that also by putting a 0 in here and then just adding 4 to the other side to get my x-intercept. So see, that first example was a tough one, but after that they're a little bit easier. Okay, second one here, it crosses at 1 because that's my y-intercept, and has a slope of -1 over 2. Again, I put the negative with the top number, so that means I go down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, and then I draw a line through those points. Now again, this one was a little bit easier. My x-intercept is right there at 2. As long as I drew my line the correct way, I'm going to be able to pick that out. If not, though, remember you just put a 0 in for y, and then solve for x to find what your x-intercept is. All right, real-life applications. So the cost y in dollars for making friendship bracelets is y equals 0.5x plus 2, where x is the number of bracelets. First part says graph the equation. So this one says it has a y-intercept of 2, so I make a dot right there at 2. Now this slope is 0.5, but what the fraction 0.5 is 1 over 2. So that means I'm going to go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, and you can see that those points fall in a line, so I'm just going to draw a straight line through them. Now you'll notice only this part of the graph is shown because are you going to make a negative number of bracelets? Probably not, so that's why we only include the positive part of the graph. Now, interpreting the slope and the y-intercept. Well, what the slope means is you're going to be making 50 cents per bracelet. And what does the 2 mean? The 2 means that you're going to start with $2, and then you're going to make 50 cents per bracelet, and that's going to be what that real-life application would be for this for. Okay, you can pause the video and try this one on your own if you would like, or just wait a little bit and I'll go through it with you. All right, so the cost y in dollars of taking a taxi x miles is y equals 2.5x plus 2. Graph the equation and interpret the y-intercept and the slope. Well, my y-intercept for this equation is 2, so that's the first part that I put a dot at. My slope is 2.5, and that means 2 1/2. But then if I rewrite that as an improper fraction, that gives me 5/2. If you don't believe me, type in your calculator 5 divided by 2, that will give you 2.5. So if I use 5/2, it's a little bit easier. That means I go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then over 2. And I go up 5 again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, over 2, and you can see where my line is going to be for that equation. Now, to interpret the y-intercept and the slope, well, my slope is 2.5, and that means you pay $2.50 per mile that you're riding in the taxi. Well, the $2 means that just to get in the taxi, you're going to have to pay $2, and then for every mile you go beyond that, they're going to charge you $2.50 or a portion of that, depending on if you go part of the mile. All right, last part here, we're going to get started on your homework assignment together. Remember to do this on graph paper because it's going to be involving some graphing with equations in slope-intercept form. So question number 1 says, how can you find the x-intercept of the graph of this equation? Well, all you need to do is put 0 in for y and then solve it for x. So you know 3 times 0 would be 0, 2x equals 6, and then you would divide by 2 on both sides, so the x-intercept would be 3 for number 1. Number 2 says, is the equation y equals 3x in slope-intercept form, and explain. Yes, this is in slope-intercept form. The y-intercept is actually 0, and the slope is 3/1. So technically it is written in slope-intercept form, it's just that you don't have to write the plus 0 because it's not necessary to write it because you know that adding 0 is just going to keep you right where you are. So it is written in slope-intercept form, it's just that your y-intercept is 0. Thanks for watching.